If you watched my video yesterday, I had two vacancies. One we got listed 2 nights ago, and I got it up online late at night. By the next morning, we had two showings. So we did two showings yesterday. The one person put in an application before even going and seeing it, and they said they wanted it. So this morning, I sent them the lease agreement, and they signed the lease, and we got their move-in date, and they were all set. The other person that saw it, they also sent in an application, but they didn't do it till this morning. So the other person put theirs in first and they were approved. Everything was great on their application, so I accepted them. I do know somebody else who has property for rent in a neighboring town that's coming up, so I recommended them to that person. I actually felt kind of bad though, because the person that came to the second showing that put their application in later, they uh, drove like 2.5 hours, I think it was, the guy said, to come and see it. So felt bad, but hopefully we can get him situated in another apartment in a different town or something like that. I always like to try and help to refer. And this guy's application looked great. I didn't run his credit or do any screening since I was already in the middle of working through the lease agreement with the other person. I always leave the listings active, showings active, and collect applications until I have like a signed lease agreement and a deposit down in place, because it's too many times people have backed out. But super happy with that. Listed an apartment, and basically within 48 hours, had it shown, rented, leased, lease signed. Move-in date is actually going to be towards the end of the month. I'm gonna give them like 5 months free, not 5 months free, 5 days free to move in. So instead of moving in on August 1st, they're gonna move in like on July 25th, 26th. Just that's when it worked the best for my leasing person to actually go and move them into the apartment. So not a big deal. It's not like I could make any other revenue off of it in those 5 days. So I'm letting them move in a little bit early. Sometimes I do prorate it and charge people, but in this circumstance, it just worked out for both of us that this was a good day to do the move in. So when they do the move in, they have to make sure everything is paid in full, which is in New York State, you can do 1 month security deposit and 1 month's rent. So they'll have to have both of those paid in full before they get the keys. Then they'll also do a move-in inspection, go through, make sure everything's okay. They can notate anything that they want on this inspection sheet, so they're not charged at the end of the term for that. Then I also create like a tenant handbook for them with different things about the unit. So I actually sent that to him over today. So he can also start switching his utilities. And we make it very clear, if you haven't switched your utilities in place, by the time you get your lease, like, we are ending utilities on our end. So they may be shut off if you don't switch them ahead of time for your move-in date. So that was kind of a big thing I did this morning, was taking care of getting that lease ready, getting the guy all situated, his portal set up. Then the next thing I worked on is a bunch of my LLC tax returns are on extension. So today I worked on my last LLC of gathering documentation to hand over to my CPA to file my tax return. So just like gathering any 1099s it may have, any 1098s it may have. Then I go through the statements and make sure, like, on the balance sheet, the interest is correct, that was allocated to the profit and loss from like a loan. So when you make your mortgage payment, you're paying principal and interest. So I just went through and made sure that was correct for each of the loans in that LLC. And then I just added, actually what I've been doing lately is adding my CPA to the QuickBooks. I had Appfolio for a long time, and we just ended that. So I'm back to using QuickBooks. So I'm able to just add my CPA to the QuickBooks, but I always send the profit and loss statement and the balance sheet. So a couple of my LLC tax returns are done, and then there's a couple on extension, but this was the last one that I actually had to give her stuff for. So that felt good. Now I got to work on my personal tax return and getting all that stuff ready and together. So those are kind of the two big things that I worked on today. Some things that I'm going to need to work on tomorrow involving the apartments is I still didn't get anyone scheduled for my other vacancy. So this vacancy is where it's just a studio apartment and the person was evicted and there's just stuff left and it's going to need to have the carpets ripped out. We'll probably put some LVP in. It's a really small area. It won't be expensive to do. Repaint it and clean it up. I've honestly never been in this unit before. We've owned this property for a year and a half, never seen the inside of this unit. My maintenance guy has, and he's kind of reported back to me as to what needs to be done, sent me pictures and stuff. So I'll have to go back again and look through those pictures, but I still need to get the dumpster guy lined up to kind of just clean it all out and get it ready so that I can get a quote on redoing, getting that remodeled and getting that listed. So that was $695 that unit was listing for, which was actually really hard for me to believe because it's just a studio, and some of the 2 bedrooms rent for like $750 to $800 in that town. Plus, this property is haunted. If you like buy books in the area about hauntings in Western New York, this property will be in that book. So it used to be like an old bar and saloon. And so the downstairs is like a completely gutted commercial space. We haven't done anything with it. There's like a full on kitchen off the back. It's like huge. And then upstairs on the second floor are 2 apartments. And then on the third floor are 2 apartments. And the third floor, those 2 apartments, we completely remodeled, redid them when we bought it. They were vacant. And then the second story there was 2 people living in them. One person that's been paying rent, great tenant that we inherited. They have a really nice apartment now and was already done. And then the person that we just evicted, that was an inherited tenant that was in that studio apartment. So we got to redo that apartment now. But yeah, supposedly in this bar and saloon, there's like the books. Every time I see a book with it in it, I buy it. And there's like different stories about like how the guy that owned the bar, like his daughter haunts it in the bathroom. There's another one saying that like there's a old railroad that used to go by it. It's taken out now, but like there was a shootout on the front steps of it, and the guys that got shot there haunt the building. So there's a bunch of different stories. And when I first purchased this property, well, when I was looking at it, I told my partner on this, I was like, I don't know if it's, I don't know if we should, it's haunted. Like, I remember when I was younger in elementary school, it was open as a bar at that time. And we went on a field trip there and sat at the tables and they told us about the hauntings. And that was like the field trip. We went to a haunted house at this bar. And, so I told him, I was like, I don't think we should. And he said, there's no such thing as ghosts, Ashley. And I said, okay, well, if there's any incident ever, you are going in there, not me. And he is like my most passive partner that really just contributes what he needs to be a part of the deal. And so maybe one day I will need him to actually become an active partner in the deal because of this haunted house. The last thing that's kind of going on in my real estate business today, I'm kind of in the standstill. I'm waiting. I've got 2 properties under contract that I'm selling. One is a rental property that I've had for 5 years. Great rental. We've only had 2 tenants the whole time. And my partner and I on it decided to sell it. It needs some repairs done, and we would rather just take the money. Like, there's so much equity in the property right now, and we both want to use it for separate things. So we listed it for sale. We got asking for it, and now we're just waiting to close. We did a septic inspection, except, well, I ordered the inspection, submitted. You have to submit like a, I don't know what do you even call it, but kind of like a certificate of like transfer of ownership. It's more of like a permission slips asking to transfer the septic, and they do an inspection of the septic in the well anytime you transfer a property that has one of those. And so I filled that out a while ago, and they sent a letter back saying they were denying the transfer of it. So apparently this septic is no longer up to code. It was at the time that it was built, but now the code has changed and there needs to be some kind of like secondary system put onto it. So the problem is that the county won't even test the septic or inspect it without somebody living there in the past 30 days. Well, it's been vacant since we put it up for sale, so that's been over 30 days. So our issue is that if they can't even come in and inspect and make sure the current portion of it that's there, make sure that that's properly working, and then we can just add on the other part. So we may have to replace the whole thing because we don't want to just do part of it and they say, oh no, you got to put a whole new one in anyways, because that's just going to waste the work that was done. So what we're doing is there is some form that the seller can sign saying that they're waiving the inspection until after closing and that they are aware that there are repairs that will need to be made, and we are going to put money in escrow for that. What that amount will be, I don't know. The live and flip that I just bought, or the seller put $20,000 in escrow, and we ended up not having to replace it. We just had to repair some of it, and it ended up being $7,000. I got the $7,000 and they got the rest of it. Super simple, easy process. Then, so for this one, hopefully the sellers or the buyers just agree that they'll sign the form and that will put money in escrow, and then if they need to replace the septic, that's fine. Like, we have so much equity and are making so much more money off of this than what we bought it for the 5 years that we've had it, that even if we have to pay a $20,000 septic for them to put in, it still is going to be a good deal for us to sell the property. And I'd just rather be done with it and not have to hold on to it longer, because every day that it's not closing, we're still having to maintain the lawn, we're still having to keep the utilities on, we're still paying insurance on the property, we're still paying everyday property taxes until they're prorated at closing. So that's, I'm kind of waiting on that. And then another property that I've had on market for 6 months, that one finally went under contract. This will be the first property that I'm losing money on, and I just did a YouTube short on that I posted today too, so you can go and watch that. But glad to have that finally off my plate and under contract. That one is contingent that the buyers, they are selling another property and they need that property to sell to use those funds to purchase mine. So it is contingent on that. But yeah, so I got those two waiting right now, and hopefully they close soon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll give you another update soon.